38 below zero in Deadhorse, Alaska. 2 in the morning, every truck in the yard running, every driver asleep in his bunk while the engines burn fuel for no miles at all. Not one of those trucks will be shut off tonight, because at 38 below, the rules invert. Down south, you shut down to save fuel. Up here, shutting down is how trucks die and sometimes how drivers do, and the idling engine is only the second thing keeping those men alive. The first one never shows up on a spec sheet. Start with the fuel itself. Standard number 2 diesel, the fuel most of this country runs on, starts growing wax crystals at around 14 degrees above zero. That is more than 50 degrees warmer than the air sitting on this yard right now. But fuel is not what strands most trucks on the North Slope. Water does that. About a teaspoon of it frozen in exactly the wrong spot, and 80,000 pounds of truck and freight is not going anywhere. Remember that teaspoon, the fuel first, and not the part every driver already knows. Everybody knows diesel gels. The number most never run is the trade underneath it. Number 1 diesel holds its wax down to somewhere around 40 below, but it carries roughly 5% less energy per gallon than number 2. So every gallon of protection is bought with power and mileage all winter long on every load. Northern pumps sell winter blends and Arctic fuel, and the drivers who know this road still hedge with anti-gel on top of it, because the fuel in your tanks is only as good as the coldest place you take it. A driver who fills with soft southern fuel and runs north into a hard snap learns something ugly. Gelling does not wait for you to park. Fuel can wax up while the truck is rolling. Power fades, rail pressure sags, and the engine starves at speed on a grade with no shoulder. That is why the engines never rest. One major Alaska carrier has put its winter idle time at close to 50 hours per truck per week. Oil pan heaters, coolant heaters, winter fronts across the grill, all of it aimed at one goal: never let the iron go fully cold. But all that running heat feeds the second problem, the one that actually parks trucks. Every air compressor squeezes moisture out of the air it swallows, and a working truck's compressor can push 4 to 6 ounces of water into the air system in a single day. In Georgia, that is a maintenance note. At 38 below, it is a countdown. Less than a teaspoon of that water, frozen inside the wrong valve, can disable the brakes and shut the whole truck down. There is the teaspoon. That is why the air dryer up here is treated like a life support component, why draining the wet tank is religion up here, and why older rigs still run alcohol evaporators, a bottle of methanol metering vapor into the lines to keep the ice from ever forming. And it is why parking looks backwards on the slope. Ask any driver in the lower 48 what you do with a trailer overnight. You set the brakes. That is what they are for. Now watch a yard in Deadhorse. In deep cold, plenty of drivers will not set the trailer's spring brakes at all. They chalk the wheels and leave the shoes backed off, because a warm brake dragged through snow and then parked at 38 below can freeze to the drum overnight, and in the morning you're under the trailer with a hammer while your window at the oil field gate closes. Quick thing before we keep going. This channel exists for one reason: to put the work these drivers do where people can actually see it. Most folks will never sit in an idling cab at 38 below, halfway up a frozen gravel road with no help for 200 miles, to understand what it costs. If you think that deserves to be seen, subscribing is how it stays visible. That is the whole ask. Now look at the road itself, because the road is half the story. The Dalton Highway runs 414 miles from Livengood, north of Fairbanks, to Deadhorse at the edge of the Arctic Ocean, and most of it is gravel. From Coldfoot to Deadhorse, there are 240 miles with no fuel, no shop, no motel, no services of any kind. That is the longest stretch of nothing on any road in North America. The state keeps 7 maintenance camps running year-round just to hold this one corridor open, and it still closes. Coldfoot itself, at mile 175, is the northernmost truck stop in the world, with a winter population of about a dozen. And here is the fact that surprises even people who think they know this road. Winter is the busy season. More trucks run the Dalton in winter than in summer, roughly 3,700 heavy trucks a month rolling through the Arctic dark, because the oil field never pauses and the frozen months are when the ground is hard enough for the heaviest work. The trucks themselves are not what leaves the factory. Alaska carriers rebuild them for the job, and one fleet boss called it Alaskanizing. Engines spec'd around 600 horsepower, 18 speed boxes, heavy steer axles, every hose insulated, and not 1 inch of exposed wiring anywhere on the chassis, because at these temperatures rubber turns brittle and plastic snaps like a saltine. Then they govern those big engines down to around 50 miles an hour, 600 horses held to 50, and when a load runs heavy enough, push trucks stack up behind it and shove it over the grades, nose to tail, like a freight train made of Kenworths. Because on this road, speed kills long before the cold gets its chance. North of Coldfoot, the road climbs Adigan Pass, 4,800 feet, the only highway crossing of the Brooks Range, with somewhere between 40 and 50 avalanche paths hanging over the roadway. The state does not wait for that snow to choose its own moment. Crews fire avalanche guns into the slopes and bring the mountain down on purpose, on schedule, because at these temperatures a driver buried or even just blocked in is not waiting for a tow. He is surviving on his idle reserve, and through all of it, the dark. From late November to late January, the sun does not rise at Dead Horse at all. 2 months. A driver can run full round trips without once seeing daylight, reading the road off headlights, delineator posts, and the voices on the radio. The wind fills in what the dark leaves out. Dead Horse has logged a wind chill of 102 below zero. At numbers like that, exposed skin does not get cold, it gets destroyed, which is why the clothing rule on the slope is simple. You do not dress for the cab, you dress for the walk every trip, with an Arctic-rated bag in the sleeper and gear packed as if the truck were already dead. If you have stayed this long, the respect part is already obvious. You know what it takes. Hitting subscribe is what carries that respect to the people who never think about the man behind the wheel until the shelves go empty. Now back to it. So here is the real answer to how a driver survives 38 below, and it is not the parka and it is not the horsepower. The truck is not transportation up here, it is a life raft. Look at how these rigs are fueled. The tanks are sized to make Prudhoe Bay and back with enough left over to idle for days if the road shuts down. Days. That reserve is not for driving. It is stranded time, purchased in advance, before the trip ever starts. Survival on this road is not a reaction to an emergency. It is loaded at the fuel island. And the second half of the answer is not on the truck at all. When the weather turns, carriers pair trucks up so nobody crosses the worst stretches alone, and the oldest law on the haul road was never written down. You do not pass a stopped truck, not ever. You slow down, you key the CB, you make sure, because on 240 miles of nothing, the rescue plan is the next set of headlights, and every driver out there is somebody else's rescue plan at the same time. The machine keeps the men alive, and the men keep each other alive. 38 below does not get beaten with toughness. It gets beaten with fuel bought as hours, heat that never goes out, and a road where stopping for a stranger is not a courtesy, it is the infrastructure. One last thing about that number in the title. About 135 miles up the Dalton, in a river valley south of Coldfoot, there is a clearing where a pipeline camp called Prospect Creek once stood. On January 23, 1971, a weather observer there read the thermometer at 80 degrees below zero, the coldest official temperature ever recorded in the United States. The high that day reached 64 below. 3 years later, they built the haul road straight through that valley. The coldest place ever measured in America is not fenced off on some untouched mountain. It has a milepost. And all winter long, loaded trucks roll past it in the dark, engines running, drivers asleep behind the curtain at 38 below, which, in that valley, on the coldest night anyone ever measured, would have counted as a heat wave.